Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you're located. Just wanted to thank those of you that have joined us early today. We'll give everyone a little bit to join here. We will go ahead and start the presentation at the top of the hour.
One treat I could point out to our current customers who are here early is we just released today a new version of FusionPro 13.2.5. And it's available to download on the website. And it has support for InDesign 2025, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, latest version of the Mac OS, and has a few bug fixes. And this will probably be the last update to version 13, because version 14 will come out in the new calendar year. We'll be discussing that during the meet of the demo today.
I think he was saving that just for this event this morning. All right, folks. Well, we are just at the top of the hour, so I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, and we'll go ahead and get started. Before we start today, I did want to give a quick disclaimer that we will be recording today's presentation, so we can provide you a copy of that for your own reference purposes, as well as to share with any colleagues. But we did just want to announce that we will be recording the meeting. We do have all of the lines muted today, except for the presenters and myself, as we will be providing this back to you in a recording. If you do have any questions or comments, though, we would definitely love to hear those. Just go ahead and enter those in the chat session. We've also set some time aside at the end for a Q&A portion. But I would like to start off today with some quick introductions. My name is Robert Hancock. I lead the business development group with MarcomCentral, which is a Rico company. I'm very excited to introduce our two presenters today. I'm going to be having Douglas Kogan. He is the FusionPro product owner. Doug is actually the architect and the father of FusionPro. Doug was responsible for writing the first line of code for the personalized document creation solution that we're going to be showing today. Douglas has had the honor and the privilege of guiding the platform since its very first line of code and inception, all the way through the successful product launch, and now gets to relish in what we have as a worldwide deployment of that solution. And Douglas is going to be coming to us in the second half of the presentation, but today we're going to start off with someone I work very closely with, John Genovese. John is our principal FusionPro consultant, and John's been with the organization really since the inception. Overall, John brings about 30 years of consultative sales and operational experience to the table. He's very well versed in working with leadership teams and brings a strong record of meeting their business requirements and operational goals. And John is extremely well versed in when we can take a look at everything from a paper-based process all the way through your current digital transformation and your cloud deployment. So with that said, now that you've kind of met our presenters, I would like to go ahead and turn it back over to John Genovese.
And I'm gonna start with a question for Douglas. Douglas, how many patents do you hold on the development of FusionPro?
Oh, you should have warned me about that, because this is going to sound like humble brag, but I literally have lost count. But I think it's 20. I think it's 22 if you include continuation patents and also patents that are issued both in the United States and in Europe and in Japan, if you count those as independent of each other. And a continuation patent is like if we have a patent on a piece of functionality and then we extend that patent to other things that are described in the original patent. If you count those as separate patents, then I think we're at 22.
Wow, well done, sir. Very good. Okay, so let's jump in. I'm going to start off by telling you what FusionPro can do for you. So FusionPro is a leading technology for creating highly customized marketing and business communication documents for print and digital delivery. You know, whether you're working with statements or menus, perhaps retail tags, calendars, postcards, just about any kind of document with a layout that is tied to data where, you know, maybe we're changing the color of the background. So a whole host of different typesetting capabilities, such as drop shadows and embossing, stroke text and text on a curve. You know, we kind of have it all. Barcodes, a lot of barcodes. That's something that a lot of our customers do a lot of. And then there are documents, so I like to say Fusion Pro is as easy as you want it to be, as complex as you need it to be. So sometimes there are some pretty darn complicated things that Fusion Pro does. Doug, I believe you were involved with this document, right? Can you share a little about what we're looking at here?
Right. So this book was an offer that we made an arrangement with a paper company, Fedrigoni, in Europe, and they wanted to provide booklets to every designer that they wanted to partner with. And so they wanted to provide a richly variable formatted book to each of the recipients. So what these books are, they're kind of like calendars. They call them calendars, but really it's representing each day of the month. These stylized numbers on the back, where the customer has a different color scheme for each book. So if you see the one on the right is blue and red, and the one on the left is orange. So each customer got a color scheme, a combination of different images to put in the calendar. And if you see on the left on the dust jacket there, those are the names of all the artists whose work is presented in the books. And the artists whose works are in your particular book are highlighted in the bright white. So that's that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's start off by describing the Fusion Pro product suite. I'm going to let Doug do this part. This is kind of where it all begins.
Right. And and by the way, I did want to thank, I see some people in the audience have been with us for a decade, 15 years. I did want to do a shout out to them. Thank you very much for that. This portion will be, of course, familiar to you, but we're going to get to some interesting use cases at the end that I think is going to appeal to everybody. We start off with a design tool, which is a plugin to Adobe Acrobat. And we also have a helper plugin, which is an InDesign. And the purpose of the InDesign plugin is to take so what you do is you take an Acrobat document and you can mark components on it. You can draw variable frames, variable graphics, write rules. We have a rule writer, which is in JavaScript, and we have a rule writer that is just a GUI-based tool. And you can just do drag and drop to make rules. And you can also answer questions on a form for a lot of barcode rules and other rules. And then you combine that with data. You can preview it in Acrobat, and then you can do a composition where it merges the data, executes the rules, makes an output PDF file, and it all runs right on your desktop computer. And now it does tie up your computer while it's doing that, but it is a very low cost, high power entry to the system. And then you can take those designs and send them to a more high powered solution, which John's going to talk about right now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, so as Douglas said, Fusion Pro Creator, it's really meant for relative low volume, 3,000 records or so. As Doug noted, it is going to tie up Acrobat. If you're doing much more than that, that tie up can be for quite a period of time. And we certainly have customers that are doing well above 3,000 records. In fact, I was just doing a test on a 600,000 record run earlier today. So when I'm doing that, I am still taking my template and I'm building it in Fusion Pro Creator. But then there's a checkbox within Creator's composition settings that says send that to a server, that is, attached to the network. So it does what we call a collect. If you're familiar with InDesign, it's like a package, right? So it grabs up all the bits and elements and it sends it over to that server. And the server takes it apart and then takes off on producing the output. And we find that this thing can be up to 10 times or more faster than Fusion Pro Creator. In addition, because it's handed that composition component off to the server, Fusion Pro Creator is available so that you can continue to work and you can continue to send jobs over to Fusion Pro Producer. Now, Fusion Pro Producer can work on 3 jobs at a time. Now, if you're doing a real big job and you want to break it up into 3 parts, you can send all 3 parts off. So it's 10 times as fast and then a third of that even. So it can be super fast for shops that are doing a lot of work. In addition, once it gets done creating the output, it has the ability to put that job out on the network. This is a great product for doing ad hoc work, right? You've got various jobs that we're going to be producing. They're high volume, but one job is different from the next. So quite typical in the VDP world. But sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes we have documents that, we just want to throw data at it, and not just once a day. We have customers that'll send a data file 10,000 times a day at a particular template. Maybe they're only doing 1 or 2 records with each run, or maybe they're doing, a lot of records with each run. But the point is that these documents are repetitive. And for that, we have a product that we call FusionPro Server Lite. And FusionPro Server Lite, you can think of hot folders. So you still use FusionPro Creator to create the template. You put the template in the FusionPro Server Lite repository. So, that gets dropped in. Then you set up your watch so that, you're looking for a input file to hit a particular folder that you're watching, right? The input hot folder over in step 4 there, or area 4. So when a input file that has a particular naming convention hits that folder, we're set up so that we run a particular template. So you can have a number of templates in there. And if the input data file contains postcard, those letters, POSTCARD, then we're going to run the postcard template. Then we set up a task that describes how we're going to output that file. So we're going to use it in position. We're going to output to a single file. We're going to output PDF VT, and we're going to put it at this UNC path when we're all done. So very much a product that is used for repetitive type work. Now, next up, Douglas is going to talk about our top level product, and this is where things get fun.
What we're going to talk about here is the FusionPro server with API. And this is the same composition engine as the producer that John just talked about. But as John said, human has to launch FusionPro producer, or it's the same composition as the server Lite, which just watches hot folders. But this has an API where you can send jobs to it through commands. You still make your template with the FusionPro Creator product, and you add it to a repository of known templates. And then there are a set of commands that you can issue to say, here is some data, run it against this named template, and either give me like a JPEG output, like if I'm connected to a website and I want to see a preview of a document, or if I want to send it to a composition to do a high volume composition to an output folder. Ordinarily, each server is configured that it can run 3 jobs at a time on each computer. We sell different combinations of that. If you beef up the machine and you can run multiple of those. What we do find though is that the bandwidth on the computer sometimes is the bottleneck. And so you can, while FusionPro could actually compose a lot more jobs, the actual throughput through the network starts to get piled up once you get considerably higher than 3. But if you can get your computer set up that it can do more, we also sell other configurations. We also sell a site license where you can have as many different computers as you want for your configuration. So ordinarily though, it's if you buy the basic system, it's a server that can run 3 jobs at a time. If you submit 500 jobs, the first 3 will begin composing. The others will remain in a queue in the order they were provided. We do have a priority indicator when the job is submitted. So you can say, these have a higher priority than these others. And like I said, you can hook this to a website so that you can show a form on a web page, send that data to FusionPro, generate a JPEG, and show a preview back. Or you can send high volume records to it. And so we also have a mode where you can say, I'm going to set aside some number of the instances of FusionPro, some number of the composition blocks so that they are available for the previews to go in and out quickly, and the others are reserved for the high volume work. So we have that, so you can use the same server both servicing a web page and doing high volume. And this is the same server that is used inside of the MarcomCentral solution, which is the reason that we're part of the MarcomCentral company. And that has many thousands of users that make use of that every day. So it's a very robust system. Our top users send, many thousands of documents an hour steadily to FusionPro server to run very high volume compositions.
Yeah, another interesting use case, by the way, for FusionPro server is we have customers that are producing accessible documents, right out of FusionPro server. Doug, you have
Yeah,
helped a
sure.
customer get going with that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So in addition to documents that are to be printed, we also have the ability that you could say for a job, you can set it up to say, run a given composition set to one big output file for printing, but also set it up that every record gets put to its own PDF file for, let's say, emailing or archive purposes. So then a customer could call and ask about their utility bill, for example, and then a call center could bring up the PDF of their bill and take a look at it. And also, if that bill is emailed, it can have accessibility features turned on. So accessibility features in a PDF allow a screen reader, for example, to access the contents of that PDF and either read parts of it or magnify parts of it and help the user navigate through it if they have a disability regarding being able to read all the text on it. Is such that it can assist someone who's totally blind and read it, or if you're just visually impaired, that you can't read certain parts. So, for example, a table, in addition to just being able to magnify and read it, a user could say, okay, I can't read this cell of it. And a screen reader could say what the column heading is and what the row heading is, and then what the value is, because that's the accessibility feature of it. It's not just that the text is in there in a readable way. There are also helper markers to help the users find their components, and also like hypertext links and images and alt text for an image to say what this is a picture of. So if you can't see it, it can be described to you. Those features are described in standards, and we implement, I won't say we implement every bit of that standard, but we implement quite a bit of it so that you can have accessible documents.
Okay. And that accessibility is part of the entire product line. I mean, that's also available in FusionPro
Right.
Creator, right? It's just if you're doing
Yes, that's right.
volume or automation, you need one of the other products. Well, speaking of FusionPro Server, we just brought out a new version of FusionPro Server. That's FusionPro Server for Rico Process Director. Rico Process Director is a workflow automation tool, right? It's vendor neutral, it's scalable, production print workflows. It captures and transforms and manages your data and so forth. So a very, very powerful solution. We're happy to have this be part of Rico Process Director. If you're a Rico Process Director customer, you can talk to your Rico folks and they will get you some information on it. So let's jump into some use cases. This one, it says large supermarket chain, but the reality is this could even be any retail type of operation where you're doing tags and barcodes and such. Doug, tell us a little about this one.
Yeah, sure. So we have several customers that do a lot of, and what this picture is showing is the little stickers that go on the shelf that have the price information. And so we have a very large supermarket chain that does it in-house, in plant. And we have a lot of printing companies that we work with where it's outsourced to them. So I'd say probably these sticker labels, these price labels, is probably the highest volume use of FusionPro because of the huge number of them that get printed every single week. So if you think about in every store across the country, all of these that have to get updated, it's quite a large number. And we also worked with a company to replace the individual stickers with a strip that goes across the entire shelf. And this sticker that goes across the shelf, it's printed on an opposed sheet that is 2 feet wide and has, I think it's 24 shelves on a sheet. So it's a great big piece of paper. and then gets cut up and delivered to the store. And that way, the workers at the store, they don't have to replace every individual sticker for the shelf. They can just take the whole shelf strip off and put the new one on. So besides the ability for them to go faster and fewer mistakes, it also guarantees that the shelf items are put, each product is put on the correct shelf, because as you might know, the vendors work out an arrangement with the supermarket what shelf and at what position, how much of the shelf width their product will get. And that's part of the negotiation of the price. And it's important that if they change what shelf they're on, that product actually gets moved. And you can imagine, right, these people who are putting these shelf stickers on, it gets late, there's a lot of stickers, and sometimes they say, really, I'm going to move all these, great grain cereals from the top shelf to the bottom one and move the other one over here to the top. I'll just put the label here and, to call it a day. But if the entire shelf is labeled, then it becomes clear that, okay, I have to move them. I have to consolidate this. I have to make it narrower. This particular store that where they're printing it in-house, that company, we worked with them to get their data in such a way, because they print it at an operation and then they distribute it to all their stores in the region. And it's important that they get there on time and they have enough time to replace all the stickers overnight. So we worked with them to have the data come out in the order of the shelf on the aisle and the walking order of the aisles in the store for each store. And then we made sure that when it got printed, that it printed the furthest store from the distribution center first. So it prints those out, gets them put on the truck, that truck leaves, and it goes to the furthest store. And then it prints out the next furthest store all the way down to the last store, which is the closest one to the distribution center. So we work closely with them to make sure that all that happened. Some of our biggest customers run 10,000 jobs an hour, 20,000 jobs an hour. And a job isn't, a sticker, it's, a store's worth of stickers, because they'll have, some of these have very large chains that they're making the labels for. And it's not just the labels, it's all the in-store signage. So it's also things that go at the end of the aisles, the end caps, even floor designs, things that go by the register, things that go by the door. So it's quite a large volume of work. I'd say letter for letter, more in-store retail is printed with FusionPro than any other output, just because of the volume of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's nice about this particular application is this goes across segments too. So we have commercial printers doing this work, and we have in-plant print shops doing this work. So great application. We also do, speaking of that, as complex as you need it to be, we have customers that are using FusionPro for financial documents, again, in-plant and service provider type of application. These can be quite complicated documents in that a particular document can be branded for a particular business. In the case of a service provider, they want the branding to be correct, whatever legalese needs to be brought into the document for the particular state. Maybe you're signing up for a new checking account, right? Communication is going to come from the service provider that's providing, this service to the companies that work with them. So, you might be receiving change of address documents. It could be checking account, savings account, whatever it might be, the communication document. And once again, it has to be branded properly. It has to be the proper legalese for the state that it's mailing to. There's a lot that goes into these documents. And FusionPro is able to handle that with its rule system. So another great application. Doug, National Health Insurance Company. What's going on here?
Sure. So this company needed to make a booklet for all the doctors that a person was eligible for to go to for their health plan. And that is personalized for their region, and it's personalized for the plan that they signed up for. So the company we work with, they were able to take the database dump for each recipient and get their set of doctors. And then it was fed to FusionPro, and it made a personalized book for every recipient for their plan, what they signed up for, and their region. And I think they did a geolocate for everybody within a certain number of miles of their facility. And this book is broken up by, I think it's by county, and then within each county, each profession. So there's ophthalmologists, and then there's surgeons and internal medicine. And so each page had a header at the top that says what's going on this page, and then we had these running headers, if you can see it there on the upper left. So some of these that are continued from prior pages, they say internal medicine continued, Warren County continued. And then they'll have new sections for a new state. So if you can see there, it says Jefferson County, and then family medicine, and then the list of doctors for that. And then some other kinds of medicine, and then another county over there, and then the doctors that go with that. So these books were many hundreds of pages. I think the largest was like 950 pages long. Now, some of them were printed and some of them were just provided as PDF files, but they were obligated to provide the doctor book. And so that was actually an in-house health insurance company. They did an implant, and they actually printed the books and mailed them out. And I think they might have switched over to optionally making a PDF file. It also had an index at the end to point to the appropriate state or doctor type, and a table of contents at the beginning, which were all generated by FusionPro.
Yeah, again, another great application. Now, I know you know a little about this one, Doug.
Yeah. This is one of my favorites. This is a piece of marketing literature that was made by a marketing company that worked closely with car dealerships. So this was a region of the country that did all of the cars. They had all the dealerships for Toyota in a certain region of the country. And so what they wanted to offer was a postcard that said, okay, your car is due for a certain service, right? It's due for its 10,000-mile tune-up, or it's due for an oil change, or it's due for tire rotation. And they wanted a picture of the recipient's car, because they know what car they sold them, what color it was, what year. So they wanted a picture of that model, that color, that year, and the service that is going to be, that's due. But on the back, they wanted to have 3 coupons. And these coupons that you're seeing here are pretty small and pretty simple. But the ones that these offered were pretty large, and they could have many lines of text on them, or 2 columns of bulleted text. So they'll say $20 off a tune-up, or a tune-up for $75, and it includes, and it was a long list of things. And they would have 3 of those offers on the back. So the idea is that the dealership, they actually got a book of all the coupons, and they would say, these are the 3 coupons I want to offer for this month for all the people who are going to get this postcard. And each dealership got a different set. So this customer used FusionPro Producer to have the data that was dumped from the dealership of the recipient and their car and the service that was due, and the 3 coupon names, the names of the PDFs of the 3 coupons, and fed that to FusionPro Producer to make a large set of postcards to be mailed. Except it turned out that the dealerships always wanted little variations of these coupons. They would say, well, I've got this coupon for this tune-up, but I don't want to include the replacement spark plugs. I want that to be an add-on. Or I'm not including the windshield wipers in the tune-up. I want that line removed. And so every month, the pre-press operators were spending all their time going through their original coupon designs and making these little one-off coupons. Now, they then made a PDF of it and then pointed to that PDF for that dealership, and could still use FusionPro to generate that output stream. But because they had to personalize every coupon manually, it was killing them. They said they couldn't take on any new business. They were spending all of their time just dealing with these coupons and editing them. And so they asked for consultation with us of what to do. And so we came up with a solution where they standardized the coupons to 6 different designs, took all of the data from those coupons and put them in a database. And so they weren't originally PDF files you'd pull in, but they were FusionPro templates. And so if the customer wanted one, it would generate the coupon on the fly based on, what coupon design and which set of features they wanted. And so then their IT team built a little website where they could type in the coupon name and it would list all the options for that coupon. And the dealership could then turn off the options that they didn't want. That would be fed to FusionPro server that would generate a PDF of that custom coupon for that dealership, show a JPEG on the screen and say, is this what you want? Then they'd confirm it. It would make a PDF and that would be added to their stream so that when that dealership's data run was executed, it would pull in that PDF as the coupon for that job. And so that would be, so if you think about the layers of variability, then the dealership gets to personalize the 3 coupons that they want for that dealership. And then they provide the personalized data for the recipient of the postcard of their car, the service that's due, and the date and the offer that they're getting. And every dealership and every recipient got a very personalized card that was exactly attuned to what they needed. So we worked with them. They were very happy with the solution. And back when we had the print show in Chicago, I remember right after that, they made sure to seek out our booth. And I never saw 3 people literally dance to our booth at the print show. They were so happy to see us and so happy with the solution because they said not only did it streamline this work and let them give a solution to their customer that they were really happy with, it liberated those designers to then do other things. Like I said, they said they couldn't take on any new jobs because they were so busy with this. It freed them up then to do other work and expand their business and grow. And I was really happy with that. It was a solution that really everybody was very happy with. And one of my favorite
funny,
success stories.
I remember working the booth back then, and these guys would come around every year. Every year they would seek Doug out to tell them how happy they are. And if Doug wasn't there, they'd make a point to come back. What time's he going to be here? Say 2 o'clock. They'd show up at 2 and seek Doug out. Yeah, it was a great application for sure.
Sure.
Okay, last but not least.
Sure. So yeah, we've got a sample actually that we ship with the product that shows a very sophisticated bill. It's a credit card statement, and it has a very rich table that's generated. This is a simpler one, but short run statements are actually a big use of FusionPro Creator. There are a lot of small businesses, charities that need statements that are run, and we have some great new features in FusionPro that allow you to have multi-line record data and combine them together into each recipient statement. We have some neat tools to make table creation easier. And I don't think I got to plug it before, but next year, there's going to be a version 14 that comes out. And hopefully we'll have a webinar in January, I'm hoping, to demo all the new features in version 14. And one of them is a completely revamped table system. So you could draw that table with Excel-like control and type in the literal text, put in variables for the variable text, and it becomes a lot easier to make a job like this, or even the multi-page credit card statement that's in our sample. It's much more visual and a lot easier to work with. But yeah, we have quite a set of features that have been added over the last few years that make short run statements in particular. And if you've got producer and server, even longer run statements, multiple pages, filler pages that, like, if you want to make sure it's an even number, and it doesn't just tack on a page at the end. Anywhere in the document, you can say, here's a filler page, and I want you to turn that on if it's an odd number of pages. Turn this filler page on in the middle, or make it in multiple of 4 pages, because I'm going to make a booklet out of this. And there's a very simple way to answer some questions and make a rule that will fill out the filler pages, things like that. The barcodes, a new feature in 13.1 is the barcodes are graphic, so you can fill them in nicely into their space. Quite a wide range of barcodes as well that you shouldn't have to write any JavaScript to do. You can just answer questions. And I think that statement job, there's no JavaScript in it at all. It's just answering questions in the GUI, and it can make a statement job.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so that's kind of the end of the presentation. So how do you learn more? It's quite simple. You can email me. You can call my cell phone. I will answer. You can go on to FusionPro.com and click the Contact Us button or demo request. There are a number of ways to get a hold of us. Robert, how are we doing on questions? Do we have any questions out there?
We did have a couple questions actually. Doug actually had made the announcement earlier from some of our customers had joined early that we did a new version release today. And then actually the question was about the next upcoming version, which was version 14. So I think we addressed that one. I did see another question over here. Can you explain the difference between server light and full server?
Okay, so Server Lite is a watch folder solution. So you set up some folders and you say, for this folder, in the simplest way, you have a folder for each template and say, if data is dropped into this folder, compose it against this named template in the template repository. So step one is you build your template, you put it into a repository of known jobs, and then you can associate it with a folder. You can also, if you have a lot of these, instead of making a folder for each template, you can set up a rule in it. It's a GUI based rule. There's no JavaScript involved. And in this rule, you say, if the data file begins or ends with or contains a certain phrase, then it goes with this template. So if it's, utility bill, and the date, then it goes with the utility bill template. If it's credit card and the date, it goes with the credit card template. And then it will compose it against that and it will put the output where you've specified. For the full server, you can instead, you issue a command from any language that can issue a web service function call. And it can be .NET, C#. People have used JavaScript, Python. And you can issue commands and say, compose a data file that's here against the template named this and put the output at this location. Or I'm on a web page, so here's the data for this template. They've typed it in a form. Here's the data. Give me a JPEG, and I'm gonna wait for that one. I expect that to be a second or two, and come back right away and show it on the screen. For the high volume, of course, you submit the command and it comes back and says, okay, here's an ID you can use to pull the status of the job, and it will tell you when it's done. And those are the main features between server light and full server.
Perfect. Thank you, Douglas.
But Robert, one point to note there, from a speed point of view, just sheer speed, producer, server, light, and server are all using server, the server component. So they all run at the same speed. It's just, how do I talk to it? All right. Is it manual? Is it a watch folder? Is it an API? There are the basic differences there.
And that's a great point. I appreciate you clarifying that, John. I do want to be cognizant of everyone's time, but I do see a question in here, and I think this is a really great one because it touches kind of MarcomCentral as a whole in our open API structure. So the question was, can an API connect to CRMs like Salesforce? Can one of you gentlemen touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, so we have customers that wanted to incorporate FusionPro Server into their Salesforce implementation. Now, these are large enterprise customers. They have a Salesforce programming team, but the use case was that they wanted their sales reps to be able to go into a contact within Salesforce, show a list of different templates there that they would be able to modify and send to those clients, to those contacts. So they bring up a template. The template automatically fills in with the customer's contact information. The rep is able to say, I want this subject covered, etc. And they say proof. Okay, proof means, hey, FusionPro Server, show me what the template's going to look like. They see it. That's exactly what they want. They say go, and that email gets emailed out right out of Salesforce to the recipient. So a great application for FusionPro Server. Again, it would have to be server because the APIs would be needed for that application. But yeah, so definitely that Salesforce or any other CRM or any other kind of system that has the ability to make an API call. you can incorporate FusionPro right into it.
Excellent. And I did see one more comment in here. The comment was email or print. John, I think the question they're leading to there is how can the jobs be fulfilled, right? Would it be something that would be taken to print or would, there we go, clarification. John, you want to touch on how we can, once the, let's call it an asset has been created, how that can be distributed?
Yeah, so for print, that's the obvious one. FusionPro's been used for that forever. For email, we're creating the asset, but then the customer would need something to tie that into an email. And what we're talking about here is emailing the single record PDF generally, right? So one record of a PDF, again, could be accessible. Could be, their water bill, could be virtually anything. But Fusion Pro is creating the assets, and then some other system would be doing the emailing. So whether it's Constant Contact or Eloqua, or there's a whole host of systems out there that can email assets. So yeah, that's how that would be done.
Thank you for the clarification on that, John. Appreciate it. I'm looking in here. I don't see any other questions. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today. I know we had a mixed group. Some of you have been longtime users of Fusion Pro, and some of you, this might be a new introduction to the solution for you. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be sending out a copy of this recording. I'll include all of John's contact information in there. And we'd really like the opportunity to chat with you one-on-one. We'd like to learn more about your operations and share some of the use cases with you. We've gone through a number of them today. And as you can see, Fusion Pro can be applied in a number of different business scenarios, and it's not industry specific. So we'd really like the opportunity to learn more about your organization. But again, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.
Yeah,
Take care, everyone.